So if you're new to Football Manager or you've already been playing Football Manager before, you'll be aware that staff and staff recruitment is really important in the game. A good backroom staff can actually transform your team from being an average team to being a team that is punching above their weight and actually performing quite well in the league. And all this can happen without you putting in that much effort as a manager. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to systematically replace your average staff with good staff. I'm also going to show you how to assign the right staff responsibilities to make the Football Manager experience a lot easier for you. I'm also going to look at staff attributes as to what is important when you're going on to sign your staff in Football Manager. Now in Football Manager, there are three categories you actually get to work with. These are the coaching team, the recruitment team, and the medical team. You also have the board, but that's a category you really don't have power over the board, do you? But first, coaches. Coaches, these are the staff that is responsible for the player development and the tactical implementation of your team. In a nutshell, they help your team play better. For coaches, we have youth coaches, head of youth development, which is quite famous in Football Manager as well. You also have technical coaches and tactical coaches, fitness coaches, but technical coaches I really like because they help your team or they help improve your players' passing, heading, other technical abilities like finishing. Technical coaches are important. The next category is scouts, and for scouts, these are the staff that are responsible for bringing in players into your team. To some degree, they're also responsible for helping players leave your club. This is in the case of director of football. But most of the scouting team include recruitment managers and other scouts as well. The medical team is the third category, and this to me is probably the most underrated and also one of the most important categories of the three. Everyone overlooks them. To some extent, I actually overlook the physios and the medical doctors as well, but they're really, really important. The better physios you have, the less injuries you have to worry about, the better medical staff you have in your team, the quicker your players can actually recover from long-term injuries and actually get back into action. So it's good to understand these three categories and know how you can go about signing them. So let's see how we can go about that. Now that we know what each category does, we're going to look at how we can actually go on to sign some of these scouts, or at least replace our scouts systematically. So I went back to one of my old saves in York, and first of all, I need to check the finances. And looking at York, we have a transfer budget of 65 and a wage budget of 23, so we should be able to get in some scouts for free. And looking at my staff, you notice that I don't have any scouts and I don't have that much goalkeeping coaches or any other coaches whatsoever. We're not the best in the league, and since everybody is still green, you're going to want this bars to be all the way up in yellow, meaning that you have the highest average, you have the highest or the best staff in the league compared to all the other teams that are sitting in the league with you. And in New York, we have space for one more coach, and since I already have a fitness coach here, I'm going to look to search in the staff search, go all the way up here, and then you can see a list of all the other searches. It's filtered by mental attributes right now, but you can go into the filter and then look for coaching attributes and then see the best coaches that you can go on to bring. And what I like to really pay attention to is the coach's personality as well as their coaching attributes. And in York, we need to try to find the best coach that we can get for the least amount of money. So I'm looking for somebody that is currently unemployed, not employed by any team. Staff role is coaching, so we're going to go into the coaching attributes and then try to select, let's just say coach by default. And then you can go over here and then pick attributes for the kind of coach that you want. And let's say I'm looking for a coach that is going to help us defend tactically. I'm going to go into the coaching role, switch the coaches, and then defending tactical coaches. You're going to highlight the specific attributes that you need for that coach. And being in York, 15 is actually a very high number, so I'm not going to go there. I'm going to drop it all the way down to 10 as a starting point and then hit OK. That just shows us one person in Spencer Pryor. So we're going to try to approach Spencer Pryor. You can see that he's even a director of football as well. In case you have limited results, you can go in and drop the value from 10 to maybe 9 and then try to see who else is going to pop up in the search. So you have two options now in Louis Spencer and Spencer Pryor. It's odd that they both have the name Spencer in their names. You can click on them and see the attributes that they have. I have a fairly professional personality from Spencer Pryor, so he's good. He's actually a very good option. I can go on to sign this guy. Looking at his coaching attributes, he's good in defending and not so much else. Since we already have a fitness coach, that's fine. He's good at working with youngsters. Tactical and technical is 10 plus on the dot, so that's very, very good. And he also has this playing mentality as attacking. That's something I actually like. So the only problem I have with Spencer Pryor is that he's a director of football. I don't know if he's going to want a coaching job. So we're going to look at Louis Spencer now. Spencer has a balanced mentality, and ideally I don't think I have that much problem with using balanced mentality, but determination, level of discipline, motivation, and people management is quite good. He's also suffering from working with youngsters, and you're using a team that don't have a lot of young players. It's quite good to actually sign somebody that has limited ability of working with youngsters. Since I can't sign both, I'm going to actually go to try and sign Spencer Pryor instead. Go to approach to sign and see if he's going to want to take a coaching role. So he has actually accepted to take a coaching role. You can drop the money to £500 since you don't have enough money for that, and then try to suggest the terms like this. He's still asking for 600. Try to push it out to 500. Still negotiating. Go all the way down. suggest terms. Hopefully he's going to come around. Yes, he has. So there we go, finalize the deal, and then we have one good coach attached to our team. That's how you can go about signing your coaches. I didn't need to pay any compensation fee, as you see, because I actually went on to sign somebody that is not assigned to any other club. There are other good coaches that I could have gone for, but that's going to cost us more money in compensation fees, and we don't need to do that right now. You notice that in the recruitment column, I don't have any staff in recruitment, no director of football, no technical director, no chief scout, no scout whatsoever. So we need to go and actually repeat the same process in searching for scouts, and then sign somebody that can actually be our director of football, our scouts, and also I don't think I'm going to need a technical director. I've struggled to sign a director of football, but I think I'm going to pick up one scout in Neil Sillet. He looks good. He has good judging player ability, judging player potential, and then adaptability is all the way up in 16. So that's a good attribute for scouts, especially if they don't have a lot of countries or extensive knowledge of other countries. If they have good adaptability, you can actually go on to send them to different countries and they don't have a problem getting results from those countries. So we're going to try to sign Neil Sillet from here, recommending the current contract, and that's fine. He has accepted it, and then we can go on to exit the talks from there, and then we have another scout in our team. For scouts, you want to look for good attributes like judging player ability, judging player potential as well. These attributes need to be all the way up for your scouts. They're not going to always be in the club, so their tactical attributes don't really matter that much. They might help you. It might help them find players that suit your tactics. So if you do have a 4-4-2 system and then you send them to different countries, they might go on to find players that actually suit the tactic. But I don't really pay much attention to this aspect. Once they do have judging player ability and judging player potential, that's fine. Now York only had one space for the physio, so I noticed I had to switch to my Valencia save, and they already have 3 physios, and then they have one room for one more physio. So we're actually going to go on to sign a physio for Valencia. Now in a big club like Valencia, you can actually go on to sign a coach or a physio that is already assigned to another club. There's one coach that is, did I say coach again? One physio that is actually sticking out here in Aaron Perez. He's already assigned to Cadiz B, but just have a look at him to see what's there. Terrible physio, by the way, so don't sign this guy. We can go by filters and then go into the search bar. We're looking for a staff role in physio, go down to medical, select physio. I'm looking for somebody that is probably employed or unemployed, doesn't really matter. Pick attributes, and then in this case you can actually go on to sign everything. Go on to select physiotherapy is the only one selected, but sometimes I do like to add motivation in there as well, and then you can leave the value on 15 since Valencia is actually a big club. So we do have other, you can see one in Leeds in Rob Price. I think I'm going to try to push this guy. I love Leeds so much. Did you know? Rob Price in here, he has physiotherapy for 20, sports science is 17, and then he's a resolute personality as well. So we're going to try to steal this guy from Leeds United. So we're going to go in and approach to sign this guy. You can see that we have to pay compensation of 1 million, and Valencia are currently in debt because I saw a minus signing their transfer budget. I'm just going to try to do it anyway. Head physio, I'm going to drop this down to medical team and then drop it down to physio and see what happens. Suggest the term. He's adamant that he wants a head physio role, so we're going to try somebody else in this sense. There's another guy in Malaga, so we're going to try to sign Fernando Lacomba, and hopefully the compensation for Lacomba is only £130,000, and we can go on to see he's still asking to be the head physio in our team. So let's just try to push it down a bit to normal physio. I don't think we have space to replace the head physio, so let's just try to suggest that. He still insists on having the head physio job. So when asked to if you can actually lock down the negotiation, you can go to the padlock here and then click it. Once it turns red, you can actually lock the negotiation and say that this is non-negotiable. I need you to be just the physio, not the head physio. Lacomba goes on to ask us for additional funds in 2.7k per week as salary, and I think that's okay considering that Valencia is actually one of the top teams. We can actually go on to pay that without a hassle. It's 4 years as well, so we can go on to sign him, and that's approved. And then we have another additional feature that is quite good as well. You can see Lacomba's attributes here. He has 20 for physiotherapy, sports science not so much, but what he's going to do just fine. He has good numbers in other attributes like adaptability, motivation, and then judging staff ability as well. So that's how you can go about signing your staff and replacing them with better staff for your team. And then we're going to look at responsibilities now, starting from the match column. If you go into responsibilities, this is where you can actually delegate duties to your staff and ask them to do something for you. So starting from the match, that's all the way down at the bottom, you can see that my under 19 and my under 21s matches are actually managed by the under 19 and under 21's coaches. So that's been delegated already in the default. And then for head coach, if I don't want to do my team talks or friendly interviews and all those kind of stuff, I can go on to delegate it, but I kind of like having that conversation. So I'm going to just take control of all those that I want. You can go on to delegate all the other instructions as well. When it comes to tactics, my head of youth development and all the other instructions are selected to manage the youth and the under 21s and under 19. So I can only focus on looking at what my team is doing and how we're going to observe it. You can see the opposition instruction. You can actually go on to delegate this to the staff that has the best attributes, and then there's a list of stuff in here, but then I'll notice that I don't really know what this have as attributes regarding to tactical knowledge. Or you do have to jump back to your overview and then see who the best staff is when it comes to, I think already mental attributes, when it comes to tactical knowledge. So you can filter by tactical knowledge, go over to mental, and then look for the tactical knowledge. I think it's the last column here, tactical knowledge. Filter it by the best and see who has the best attributes for that. I have a scout here in Jorge Hernandez, and then others are just scouts as well, Cesar Jimenez. And then we have a Fran Lapiedra as a performance analyst in here. He has the tactical knowledge of 12, so he should do. Since I noticed that I can't assign a scout to actually provide opposition instructions, I can go on to assign it to the next best guy, which is Tony Seligrat. He has a tactical knowledge of 11, so you can actually go on to assign that to the coaching staff that is responsible for the best coaching staff with opposition instruction or tactical knowledge. Actually assign those scouts. You can actually go on to assign the best coach with tactical knowledge, good tactical knowledge, to actually handle your opposition instructions. For scouting and contracts, you do want to take over some of this by yourself. I think only the youths, when it comes to negotiating their contracts, I'd like to delegate this to the assistant manager, director of football, or head of youth development. Try to give it to somebody else. You can go on to choose it here for youth, head of youth development, like this. And then I do like to leave the finalization of those deals to me, so in case I see the numbers and I don't like the numbers, I can just cancel the deal. And you can see negotiating player signings for Valencia. I go on to delegate that as well, and then have somebody else take care of that. I don't want to bother myself with that. Finalizing, of course, is still going to be me. You can see, you can read up the information here. Find and sign young players for the future. I can also ask my director of football or my head of youth development to actually do this. I can go on to delegate it to head of youth, and then whoever comes in, he can go on to do negotiation of the contracts as well. And when it's time to actually finalize the deal, I can go on to look at it and then see if the numbers are good enough, and then I just go ahead. Or sometimes I like to take over the contract signings myself and then allow the head of youth or the director of football to actually go and find players. If I don't like the player, we'll not even bother negotiating the contract. So that's also something you can do to save yourself time looking for good players in the game. You can delegate some of this stuff, but be wary. Tell you that your staff is not going to go and spend an outrageous amount of money looking for somebody that is not even good enough. So try to know which one you're delegating to them, and then know who you're delegating it to. Currently, this is just a random save in Valencia, so I don't really know that much information about the head of youth development. He's just good at working with youngsters, nothing else. So I probably would change the gear and assign somebody else. Really, finding development loans for young players, you can actually delegate this to your loan manager if you have one. If you don't, you can actually go on to sign one. Currently in this Valencia save, I don't have a loan manager, so a head of youth development can do that job as well. I can go on to drop him here, and then looking at my head of youth development, I don't actually like this guy. Something you need to consider when you're signing a head of youth development is to look at the personality. I notice that in Football Manager, the personality of your head of youth development does affect your youth intake. So try to get someone in that has good personality, like fairly determined or determined, professional, model citizen, seriously professional. And you can use determination as well to actually find that. You can go into the staff search as usual, like I showed you before. Go into the staff search and then just clear this information here, start a new search, and then go into the staff role, go into the recruitment team or the coaching team, sorry, for head of youth development. Find the head of youth development. Since we are looking at Valencia, I think looking at our -17 budget, I'm going to try to sign somebody that is not already assigned to a club, and then go on to pick the attributes for your head of youth development, highlighted by attributes. You can see judging player potential and judging player ability, working with youngsters. Those are the attributes that are important for the head of youth development, but I'm going to include determination so I can get somebody that is fairly determined at least to actually come into the club. So once I go and filter that, we have 4 staff to actually look at, and you can see director of football, ignore him, and then head of youth development, I have somebody here in Rossi Ames. So Rossi Ames is English. Determination, yes, fairly determined, that's good, but all the other attributes like adaptability, level of discipline, I don't really like them. But he's a good, for a low budget, I probably would have signed him. But let me just look at somebody else to see if there are other interesting parties out there. Yes, Herman Gerland is someone that is quite good. He may cost us a lot more money. His age is on the retirement side, resilient personality as well, but he has all the attributes that I'm looking for the head of youth development. Discipline, motivation, determination, people management, working with youngsters is all the way up at 20. So ideally I want to sign Herman Gerland, but let me just take a sneak peek at the last guy in Dean Rastrick. If he's good enough, resolute personality, working with youngsters is 18, and then he has all the other attributes as well. Tactical, not so much, but that's not important. So you can see that I can actually go on to sign Rastrick over Gerland because Gerland is slightly older. I don't know if it's a really smart move, but I'm going to try to approach both of this stuff and then see what's going to happen. So we're going to finalize deal for him and then go over to Gerland as well. And then the conflict, I'm going to deal with the conflict much later. Okay, Helen has actually opted to be a coach. So that's something I can go on to add into my team instead of just asking him to be a head of youth. So let's just go and finalize this. Oh, that's wonderful. So I have Herman Gerland in the team now, but not as a head of youth development. Dean Rastrick is going to be the head of youth development, and Gerland can actually play another role in the club. So that's how odd staff signings can actually go on to do. If you see a staff that you like and you couldn't fill him in a particular role, you can actually give him a different role to still keep him in the club and then have him be of use to you as a staff. So remember, if you're in the lower leagues, you don't want to sign staff that are already assigned to another club because that could cost you money in compensation fees. And also try to fill up your team with staff that have good personality and actually have good attributes. Or when you're signing staff, remember to get staff that are better than the staff you already have in your team. And then if you're looking to replace the staff in your team, try to wait for their contracts to expire instead of having to sack them and then replace them with somebody else, because if you're sacking them, you're still going to have to pay them salaries, which is not good enough. So try to wait for their contracts to expire, and when their contract is expiring, don't renew it, just let them run out of their contract, and then you have an extra space. You can go in there and sign somebody to replace them, just like that. So that's how you can go about applying your staff on Football Manager and making them useful, making them help you. Something more to remember that I almost forgot: when it comes to training in your staff, you could have problems with your coaches and some departments not going into detail during your coaches. You just go over, when you go into the training session, go over to coaches and make sure that the best staff is actually working in the right department. So you can go over here to the coaches column and then select edit coach assignments, and then you can see that it's kind of random like this. And then I don't really know in detail how you can go about doing it, but you can ask your assistant to get the best staff working in the best category. So you just ask the assistant to do it, and then it's going to choose the best staff. Like a goalkeeping coach now is going to be the one assigning goalkeeper, shot stopping and handling, and it's not going to ask me as a manager, which has terrible goalkeeping training attributes, to actually go on to train goalkeeping. So instead of having that random coach doing a coaching session that he's not trained for or he's not equipped for, you can ask your assistant to assign it and then choose the best coaches to actually handle the best coaching session. So that's something, in case you missed it, you can actually go about including it in your training sessions to have your team get the best training sessions from the best coaches available. Now for scouting, we've actually looked at some of the attributes you could pay attention to when you're signing scouts, and if you don't have scouts, remember you can go sign scouts with good judging ability. Now for scouting, we've actually looked at scout attributes that you can pay attention to when you're trying to sign a new scout. Remember, judging current ability of players and judging potential ability of players are good attributes to look at. Also adaptability and the scouting knowledge of different countries is quite good. But something also to pay attention to when you do have scouts is when you go into your recruitment focus or go into the scouting category like this here in the DAM scout save, go into the scouting coverage and then go into team report or match and team analysis. Select the match and team analysis, and here you can go on to assign a scout that's going to look at the opposition that you're going to play against, the next opposition. Normally in previous Football Manager games, I think this was set up by default. So I noticed that on FM 2023 it wasn't really set up by default. Something you actually need to go and select is something you actually need to go into the scouting coverage and select, go into match and team analysis, and then go into the scouting next opposition like this, and then choose one of your scouts, preferably one with very good judging current ability. I normally prefer current ability over potential ability, but it really doesn't matter whichever one you choose. Judging current ability because you scouted the next opposition, go on to select the scout in here and then choose confirm. For the analysis pool, go on to select one of your data analysts in your club. If you don't have one, you should actually go on to sign on data analyst or data analyst as well. Use analyzing data as the best attribute that they have, and then give that data analyst the job of analyzing the next opposition. That way, go on to click confirm. Don't forget, this way you're going to go on to get reports of the next team that you're playing against, a more detailed report than the one you get initially, and then it can help you go on to analyze the opposition and see where their strengths and weaknesses is, and it obviously give you a template for your tactical setup that you can work towards and how you can plan to deal with the opposition on match day. So that's it for this video. I'm going to find you much later in another video with more Football Manager tips like this. And if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like on it and also to subscribe to the channel. And if you have more questions, do leave it in the comment section as well, in case I missed anything and then you have a question to ask. Do leave it in the comments. I do check those and I can reply to you as quickly as I see those texts or comments. See you in the next video.